Yeah.
So I can start getting everything on.
All right, Zach, I'm going to hit the go live on Facebook.
All right, sounds good.
You got the slides in the video.
All right. Well, good afternoon, everyone. Zach Nicklin here from the National Center for Autonomous Technologies, back with our last FAA Drone Safety Week presentation or webinar here. We're streaming live on Facebook and our Zoom link. So if you have any questions, you can always throw them in the chat, whether it's Facebook Live or through the Zoom link. If you're looking for the Zoom link, go ahead and check out our Facebook page at the National Center for Autonomous Technologies, and you'll find the link there. With us today, we've got Marty Wetherall and Joel Stewart from Hydra FPV. Good afternoon, gentlemen.
Good afternoon. Thank you so much for having us.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for being here and being a part of our show and letting us show what you folks have going on over there. So, Marty and Joel, what are your titles there at Hydra?
I am the co-founder and CEO, and Joel is co-founder and CTO, Chief Technical Officer.
All right, so we got the CEO and the CTO on the line here. Perfect. Now, so we're just going to jump right in here. And what exactly is FPV racing for those who don't know?
Well, FPV stands for first person view, and first person view is a way of flying drones that contrasts with line of sight. Line of sight is what, interestingly, most people expect to do when they fly a drone. They want to see it in the air or fly a model airplane or whatever. They want to see it in the air as if that's some sort of like norm. But I guess that's the norm we grew up with. First person view, or FPV, is different from line of sight in that there is a camera on the flying machine, the drone in this case, and it's centered. And the purpose of that camera is to send a live signal to goggles. And when the pilot flies that drone, they actually see through the camera on the drone as if they're riding on the drone. Thus, it's a first-person view of the flight experience. And in many ways, it's an out-of-body experience because you are porting yourself onto this drone and flying around, and you're instantly oriented. You don't have to worry about what left and right is like you do with line of sight, because you are on the drone and left is left and right is right. And that enables a brand new sport like drone racing, because drone racing puts out these amazing race courses and obstacles and things to fly through. And the only way you can really navigate around all those things is if you're situated on the drone as you are with first person view and that camera sending a signal to your goggles.
Oh, that's absolutely great. And I'm told you have a little short demo here of exactly what that looks like.
We do. We're here at Ready Tech Go at the Mall of America. This is a brand new place that we opened up October 1st, and it's the home to our Youth Drone Sports Championships, which is a youth program we'll be talking about. All of this comes from the Hydra FPV sort of origin. And here at Ready Tech Go, we have a drone race course, an indoor tiny whoop drone racing course. Tiny whoops are little tiny palm-sized drones, and we're going to fly one around our course right now and show you the first-person view that the pilot receives while they're flying. And of course, that's a real-time signal. It actually uses analog video technology, and here we are.
All right.
That's
there we go.
yes, so you can see that's a race course that we've set up here at our Mall of America location. It changes every week. We just added a big turkey into the middle of it for Thanksgiving. Now our place here at the mall is closed temporarily in accordance with the governor's orders. We are not going to be doing our regular drone racing activity here until those orders are lifted, but we can do this demonstration today. And as you can see, now this camera is doing a little bit of funky stuff with color. That's not always the case, but as our pilot friend Brian is showing, he's flying through what's now an infinity tunnel, which is just a cool thing you can build with mirrors and LED lights, and it kind of creates this honeycomb or kaleidoscope effect. But this is what it looks like to fly first-person view. Notice that we don't see the drone. We can actually see little bits of the drone in the lower left and lower right corners. Those are the ducts around the propellers in the front. But you don't really use those for context anyway. You don't need context. You just have to get used to the idea of flying on the drone itself.
Wow, that looks like a great time. And I guess why we got that up and we're viewing this, how hard is it really to go from that line of sight that a lot of us are used to the to the goggles where you're flying, you know, on the drone itself there?
It's a great question. It definitely takes some adjustment and practice. This is not an easy way to fly. So if you think you're just going to walk into the Mall of America and try it, it's not really the case. Luckily, there are ways to practice and learn how to do this in a simulator, a first-person view simulator. And what's great about the simulator, it's essentially a video game, but it uses the same controller that you use to fly your real drone. You can just plug that controller into your PC or Mac, and you can learn to fly the simulator. And so as you see this shot right now, you'll notice that going around all those different gates and through all those different things be very difficult to do line of sight. But as long as you're on the drone like this, you know when you want to turn left, you know when you want to turn right. Now we do have a clip of what the simulator looks like, and we have races in the simulator just like we have races in real life. We actually build the race course that we build each week here in real life into the simulator. So here's what the simulator looks like. This is in the middle of a race we did last weekend, and we are going to continue racing in the simulator while we're officially closed here for the governor's orders. So that was the first person view, but there's also a third person view. If you notice, we just switched in this clip to a follow cam. So this is more of a spectator view, and the simulator allows for these options, which is really nice. And we're working on having the same sort of options in our real life course. But this is what a first person view simulator looks like. You saw what the pilot saw, which is first person, and then here's a spectator version of that. So this is a great way to learn, because when you fly in the simulator, and see, he just crashed. When you fly in the simulator, you can crash and you can, just, bounce all over the place, and you're not hurting anything physical or real. And you don't have to worry about changing batteries, which is something that you have to think about quite a bit in real life. So it's a great way to learn. That is what we recommend. We have stations here at Ready Tech Go that people can try for free, and a really low cost way to get into this sport. Instead of getting a drone, goggles, and a controller, you just start with a controller, because the controller lets you fly the sim. And we use Velocidrone, which is the leading first-person view racing simulator. And if you just get that one piece of equipment first, the controller, then you can learn to fly and kind of get into it first before you make those additional investments. And then by the time, and we've seen it time and again with the students we've worked with and grown-ups too, if you get good in the simulator, if you get capable in the simulator, then the first time you fly a real drone, you pick it up very quickly. There's not much of a learning curve at all. It's a little different. The physics can only be so good, and they're really good, but you get used to the real thing so quickly, and we really recommend that as the way to start. And it's a more cost-effective, cost-friendly way to start.
Yeah, I think so, and even less time consuming, because I know, at least personally, you know, I've been flying drones for years and years, even some with, without the GPS stability and things like that. But I tell you what, my first 2 weeks with my little Blade tiny whoop, I spent a lot of time putting it back together, after hitting things. So that's absolutely great, and a great way to get started, as you said. So let's back up a little bit. How did Hydra FPV come about?
Well, I showed up at a very unusual gathering that a friend of mine told me about, and turns out it was at Joel's office. And Joel had begun gathering a few friends who were all getting into this sport in the very early days, and this was late in 2016. Drone racing has only been around, FPV's only really been around since about 2015. So this was pretty early on, and I saw it for the first time there. I was instantly intrigued and excited. I come from a film and TV background. I come from a sports background and a startup and innovation background. And what I saw that day at Joel's office was a convergence of all those things. It was a brand new sport, but it was a sport that had video cameras built in. In fact, it was enabled by the video cameras. And there was all kinds of interesting technology and innovation. And it just was extremely cool. I'll let Joel explain how that even came to be, that he was having people over to his office, but that was the beginning for me.
I don't even know if I can explain it. I saw I saw it at a meetup. Some friends were flying their stuff around, and I was like, that is for me. I'm a software engineer by trade, but I started dabbling in all the electrical and mechanical engineering aspects. And so drone racing kind of brought together all of these different things that I was super interested in. Everything from programming the firmware on the flight controller to designing your own frames in 3D modeling, then printing it, then just experimenting with all the different motors and soldering, and then programming all these different Arduinos to make the courses alive. It was just bringing together all of the fun, cool, STEM related and hobbyist type activities into one sport that was really measuring not only your ability to fly, but your ability to keep a quad in the air and performing. And so it was a very individualized sport at that point, and it really touched all the different aspects of what it meant to be a technologist as well as a competitor. And it was just an amazing thing to get into and be exposed to, and that's kind of where it started for me.
Well, that's
So
great.
we got together and saw an opportunity to build something in this emerging space. And Joel, as I mentioned, is our CTO, but an absolutely brilliant technologist, able to take on anything and build anything we can imagine. And so we just started looking to enable the space in cool new ways with technology. And we started as drone racing entertainment technology, and we started putting on races. We raced these little tiny palm-sized drones, like we mentioned, and raced them around people in bars and restaurants, and just started experimenting with what does it take to put on a drone race? What does it take to make it fun to watch? Can we live stream and produce a really great watchable experience without all the old rules applying, because the cameras are built into the sport? And so we just spent some time putting on races and experimenting, which is kind of a startup way to do things, a lean startup way to do. You just experiment, you try things, you have a hunch, you put stuff into the world, you look at the results, you change, you adapt quickly. And that's what we were doing. Eventually that led us to notice that anytime we were around young people, they were especially fascinated and especially interested. And as Joel mentioned, the same thing that drew him to the sport was there's so much interesting technology, and it's all very worthwhile technology to learn. And so if you could get young people involved in that, then just because they want to fly around, they could pick up so many interesting lessons, skills, and put them on really amazing paths toward their future. So we started a youth program called the Youth Drone Sports Championships, and that led us eventually to putting on a bunch of drone races in schools and having kids build drones. There's our logo, the Youth Drone Sports Championships. You can learn more about it at youthdronesports.org. We've since expanded. We have a collegiate drone sports championships because we had some high school kids that graduated and want to keep flying. And the YDSC actually extends all the way down to second grade, because we're starting second graders in the simulator. They don't really start building until about sixth grade, building and flying the real thing. But that's just sort of arbitrary right now. We already had a fifth grader kind of break that rule and build his own drone. So we got into the Youth Drone Sports Championships, racing in schools. When the pandemic hit last March, we had 20 teams of kids, over 100 kids in the program just around the Twin Cities. We moved them all into Velocidrone, all into the simulator. We were the only sport that didn't cancel when all the other sports were canceling and everyone was stuck at home. Well, all of our pilots could race from home on the simulator. It's an amazing multiplayer video game experience as well as a training tool. And so we had our state tournament in May in the simulator, which we said we could absolutely do. It aired live on Fox Sports North for 2 nights because there was no Twins baseball. There was no live sports of any kind except what we were doing in the simulator for the most part. And we continued our program through the summer. Looking ahead to this school year, we saw difficulty in continuing the program unless we had our own location. Luckily, we were in touch with the Mall of America, very interested in STEM and especially STEAM education when you add art into the STEM picture. And they were interested in what we were doing and giving us a place to do it that wasn't going to be subject to all the changes that were going to be happening on the school landscape. And so we set up this space, opened October 1st, and we called it Ready Tech Go. And here's a look at Ready Tech Go. It is an experiential retail concept. It's part arena for drone racing and other interesting new tech sports. It's also a playground. It's a place you can try things and learn things. And as I mentioned, Literally today, we are closed. We were open yesterday, and today we're closed based on the governor's orders. But we are certainly okay with being part of the solution to what we're going through right now, and so we're going to do what's right. But you can check out our website at readytechgo.com. Notice that we spell ready like the gamers do, RDYTECHGO.com, and our schedule will be there. It'll be updated there. We continue to race, just not in real life, but in the simulator. And we're actually going to add more simulator races for our grade school kids, our middle and high school kids, our college kids, and the grown-ups that have been coming into the mall and saying, how can I do this? So Hydra FPV started building a technology base for growing the sport of drone racing, and we've since added to that with building the youth program, and now bringing it into a retail context in a mall environment where we can expose so many more people to it and really showcase it. And so it's been an interesting story.
Wow, that sounds like just a blast, honestly. I mean, all the fun that you must have had holding these races and getting these kids interested. I can tell you with my young children, you know, as soon as they get behind the controller of a drone, their eyes just light up and they're ready to go and try new things. So doing it on this scale is just amazing. I see we're on a wheeled vehicle, it looks like, or maybe tracked, cruising around the store.
So this is a Sphero robot that we have here that we roam around. It's the Rover, but we put a first-person view camera on it. It didn't come like that, but of course we're first-person view people. So it looks like that. It's itself looking at itself right now in our display case. But we put a first-person view camera on it, and Joel is actually driving it now, only looking through the first-person view camera, just like we do when we're flying drones in FPV. And this is a tour of the race course that you saw being flown a little bit ago. You can see that all the gates in the course are animating and illuminated. We actually have complete control over those gates. And then beyond that, you see that's where the pilots sit in what used to be dressing rooms when this was a clothing store. But now they're really cool looking pilot pods, and the pilots sitting there with their goggles and their masks and look amazing. By the way, I should say that when we are open, we're very strict about wearing masks. We're only not wearing masks today because we're the only ones in here. But yes, the pilots look awesome in the pilot pods there. And all these gates, as Joel's demonstrating right now, we can turn them on and off individually. We can animate them. We can randomize them. We can change colors. And it actually has given rise to a brand new game, which I'm just going to explain to you right now. It's so new that I don't have a clip ready, but we've designed a game where we light one gate at a time, just like that, and we turn it on for just a few seconds, maybe about 5 seconds. So instead of the pilots all flying around a course where they've memorized the route through, which is what drone racing typically is, and everyone just has to memorize the course and then race it as fast as they can. This is a responsive game. We call it Chase the Gates. Literally debuted it a week ago, not even. Yeah, it was a week ago today. And the pilots sit and they wait to see which gate is lit up, and then they try to get to it before it goes dark. And if you can get through it before it goes dark, you get a point. If not, you miss that point. And the pilots experimented with us, and it was awesome. And what I love about it is, as a fan of all kinds of sports, not just racing, I love how it is more responsive than just sort of a memorized route that you're trying to perfect. And so Joel, in all of his technical genius, was able to kind of wire up this course in a way we never could in the high school gyms, to be honest. Now we have control of the space and we can try so many things. This really is, you hear about maker spaces, and we have a maker space in the back where we can build drones and build these gates and do all that stuff, and the kids can use it. But it's also something we call a made space, because everything in here we've made. And we think that's a really empowering idea. It ties directly to the FPV world and the drone world, because you are doing a lot of tinkering and a lot of fixing, and you mentioned that yourself, Zach. But this is a made space, and we just try anything we can dream up, and that's a really exciting idea, and I think the kids and everybody that comes in here appreciates that as well. So Joel looks like he's stuck. The Rover, oh, there he is. He's heading toward our big inflatable turkey.
Well, I'll be honest, as you flew the drone through that, I forgot what you called it there, that tube that made it look like honeycombs, I was pretty disoriented. I had no idea what was going on.
That's kind of the idea, but you fly through it quickly. We're going to make it twice as long here in a second. What we're going to do over these 4 weeks of being closed is actually just add more cool stuff, which is, it slowed our pace when we were open every day, talking to all the people coming in, which is fine. But now we actually, as we continue our live streaming schedule with all of our sim races, there's the outside of the Infinity Tunnel, and we call it the Infinity Tunnel because it just looks like you're going to infinity when you go through it. But it's just a 6-sided mirrored tunnel. We just got a bunch of like bedroom door mirrors, put them into a hexagonal tunnel and put LEDs on one end. And if you fly through the LED end, you get that amazing effect. These are all the things you just dream up when you're flying cool little flying machines in first person and trying to figure out how to make cool race courses. So if you're into that sort of thing, this sport is for you. This activity is for you. If you think it's fun to fly, it's absolutely for you. And if you like to be inventive with cool new technologies, that's what we're doing here at Ready Tech Go.
All right, awesome. So let's talk a little bit more. So right now, obviously, things are a little bit different with COVID. So let's talk about that for just a second. You said you're still holding sim races. What about people who are just getting into it? Is there a way for them to get into the sim races at this point, even though your office there is closed?
Absolutely. So if people want to get in touch with us, we're going to be setting up, you can reach out through our website, readytechgo.com, RDYTECHGO.com, also through the youthdronesports.org website. If you're interested in this, there's contact information there. And we can always set up time to get you set up with that first piece of equipment, which is the radio controller. And it's a really great deal. There's a $40 radio controller that will fly a real drone, but it'll also plug into your computer at home. And so it's a matter of getting that piece of equipment, then you can get the game online. And what's great about the way we've been designing our simulator races is there's an introductory race course that we created, which is a simple oval. It's just 6 gates, like the gates you saw on our course here, but just 6 gates in an oval. And it's it looks like an elementary school gym. And we start everybody there. All the people that come into the mall, we start them on there just to see how challenging this is to fly. And some people accept that challenge, and some people say, oh, this is too hard. But we challenge people to get a 10-second lap on that oval. And then at the beginning of all of our sim races, we start with an oval race. We call it the Ovaltine. And all the beginners race in the oval. So that first course that they ever tried to fly, they actually get to race it against other beginners. Once you win that race twice, you graduate. You can't race in the oval anymore. Let some other beginners have a chance. And so that's our method for getting people who are just beginning actually into a racing situation. And it's been really amazing to watch, because it's one thing to practice an oval, and first you set up the clock, and now you're trying to get that 10-second mark, and that's pressure just to see a clock ticking. But now you got other pilots, and you're not even with them in the same room, but you're racing sometimes kids from across the planet in a simulator. And all the kids talk about, oh my gosh, my heart was beating. Like, they just talk about the adrenaline and the heart rate going up as if it were like a physical sport where you're running around. And it's such a great training for these kids of all ages to kind of have that sort of pressure and see if you can respond with tiny movements of your thumbs and concentration. So if anyone wants to get into this, it's absolutely possible. Not just elementary kids and middle school kids and high school kids and college kids, but grown-ups too. We're starting them on that oval course. And get in touch with us through the websites, readytechgo.com and youthdronesports.org if you're interested.
Awesome, that's great, and I love the fact that we're still a way to get folks in there, even though the store may be closed. But now let's cross our fingers, and we're going to talk about the time post-pandemic here, or at least when we can open back up a little bit. Maybe how we were this summer. Get folks in your store. How does things work? I'm a random person who walks by in the Mall of America, and I see Hydra FPV, and I walk in the door. How do I get in here? How do I get started?
Well, yes, we have a big, beautiful, colorful sign out front that says Ready Tech Go. And if you want to kind of a lot of looks at what the store looks like, if you're on Instagram, that's a great place. So RDY Tech Go on Instagram is our handle, and we'll post a lot of information there too. But so you're going to see this explosion of color is what you're going to see as you're walking through the mall, and then you're going to look inside and you're going to see that color is all LED illuminated. And so you're going to walk in, and a lot of people do. They don't know what it is, but they're curious. And we explain that we're racing drones and flying in FPV, and they see what that looks like because we have monitors showing the first person view feed as they could see it in line of sight as well. So they get a benefit that the pilots don't get, watching line of sight and FPV at the same time. But that's what it takes to kind of have it all add up in their mind. Then we have a simulator station, which is free to try, and we set the people that are interested in trying that up there. From there, they can recreate that setup at home with that $40 radio and the game. The game is a $25 one-time fee for the download and the license. And then we say, hey, start meeting with us on a weekly basis on the nights where whatever age group you're in meets. And we've actually now, looking ahead to this time when we're not going to be open to the public, we're adding another race series, which actually merges kids from as young as grade 2 all the way up to fifth year seniors, or if you're still in college, whatever you might be, into one. We call it the Elite Drone Sports Championships, and that's going to be the best of the best across all of that, because you actually got some elementary kids who are better than the college kids, if you can believe that. And the world champions of drone racing, literally the world champions of first-person view drone racing, the fast ones, the 5-inch racing quads, 5-inch propellers, they fly outside. You got to be a safe distance away. They can go basically 100 miles an hour in the blink of an eye. The world champions are all teenagers, 15, 16. And so you talk about, fun, right? And drones being fun. Well, kids love them. And it is fun to fly, and it's certainly fun to fly in FPV, and kids tend to be the best at it. So that's what I would recommend, is getting a chance to start on the sim. And then one other thing that we have here at Ready Tech Go, which we're going to show you now with the help of our roving robot, is drone soccer. So this right here is a ball, a 3D printed ball cage with a drone inside, if you can see the drone there. And this is essentially a flying ball. No cameras on this drone.
Actually, it's not a 3D printed cage. It is an actual, manufactured.
Oh, that's right. Sorry. There's other 3D printed parts.
Yeah.
We did some early 3D printed prototypes, but this is not 3D printed, this particular cage. However, what we now are looking at is our first in the United States drone soccer arena. It is a rectangular netted area with kind of almost a basketball court kind of a floor, but a soft one. And then you see that hanging disc. So there's a hanging disc on both ends, and those are the goals. And so what you do is you try to fly your drone soccer ball through the other team's goal across the court from you. It's a 3-on-3 game. On each team, one ball. So all the balls are piloted, right? You're flying a ball, and there's three balls on each team. One ball on each team is the striker, so they are the only one that can score. But that leaves an important job for the other two on each team, which is to play defense and to knock the other team's striker out. So as you're trying to score, you're getting through a couple of other drones that are in the air, and it's amazing to watch, because these are challenging to control, especially for beginners. And you're trying to hover, and you're trying to guard that goal, and the other person's trying to aim and get through, and you got collisions, and it's crazy. So when we say drone sports, when we say the Youth Drone Sports Championships, the Collegiate Drone Sports Championships, we're talking about things like that Chase the Gates idea that we've just launched, but we're also talking about drone soccer. So it's more than just drone racing. Drone racing has been around long enough to get a little bit of unaided awareness, but drone sports is a whole new category, and that's where it gets more and more fun. And we can do it with line of sight, like with these soccer balls, where it's not about FPV, because you really have to be aware of your surroundings in a way that you can't be with FPV. FPV is so locked in, looking straight. But then other games like Chase the Gates, and of course the racing. So if you're interested in drone soccer, that's another reason to come to Ready Tech Go and to learn to fly, because it's just a whole new fun game you can play.
That absolutely sounds like a blast. I mean, you spend your time trying not to crash your little FPV racer, and here you are basically playing bumper cars, trying to get it into the hole. And frankly, it didn't look like that hole is too much bigger than your ball there. So there's a little bit of precision involved, especially as you're on a different side of the course or the court.
There is. I would say it's comparable to a basketball in a basketball hoop in terms of that kind of, so there's enough room to get it in there, but you got to shoot it right.
Okay. All right. So just so our viewers get a whole idea here. Well, first question. You had talked about the 5-inch racers going 100 miles an hour. I know that tiny whoops don't go as fast, even though it looks very fast as you're looking through that FPV lens. About how fast do they go?
Well, I've never put them on a radar gun, but what everyone basically says, and correct me if I'm wrong here, but 30 miles an hour at top speed, like in a straightaway. And when we used to race in the bars, if anyone's familiar with Williams Pub in Uptown, one of the places that we used to fly, they've got a 50-foot bar. Is it 50-foot, 100-foot, 100-foot bar? It's a long bar. They proudly say it's the longest bar in Uptown. Well, that's interesting, but it's long and it's wood, and people sit at it and they're drinking. Well, we used to incorporate it into our course when we were flying there, and it was an epic straightaway, and those drones got up to top speed, but it was still safe, even at top speed, to fly over people's heads as they were enjoying a beverage. So these tiny whoops, these micro FPV racing drones, they weigh about an ounce. Again, the propellers are ducted, so they are safe to fly indoors, and they're really approachable for kids. But the pilots who really get into it, invariably, they want to explore what they can fly that's a little bit bigger. And the fastest racing drones, it's interesting because there are dinner plate sized drones, and then there are almost like as big as my arms are right now drones with 10-inch propellers. The dinner plates have 5-inch propellers. The fastest ones are the dinner plate size. So bigger is not necessarily faster. The fastest is the smaller, nimble, weigh about a pound, but with all the power, 5-inch racing drones. And you see pilots invariably getting interested in that this summer in a safely distanced outdoor way. We actually had some of our YDSC kids learn at a camp with a professional drone racing pilot, Chris Spangler from the Drone Racing League, Fluxy. He taught students how to fly this larger format drone, and these were the students that were really into it. We like to start kids with the tiny whoops because they're so approachable, they're so safe to fly around people. They're super fun to watch. They're even more fun to watch than the fast ones, in my opinion, because you can actually see them. The fast ones go so fast. But from a flying perspective, and for flying is fun, the pilots who get really good, they want to like push it to the limit, and that's where they get into the bigger formats. All outdoors, all with a safe perimeter, but pretty amazing experience if you can learn to fly those.
All right. And so one of the last questions I have for you here, I'll probably come up with another one or two. But so we talked about the cost to get started. The remote control is $40. Getting into the Velocidrone software, that's the one-time download fee of about $20, $25. Mm-hmm. What about as we progress to still working with these tiny whoops, inside your office and some of the, the most of what you do there. When we start talking goggles, will we need another transmitter? What does it cost for the drone? So, I mean, if I'm looking at the full package there, what type of an initial investment am I trying to make? And knowing full well that there's quite a range on some of the products, as far as costs go.
Sure. Well, one of the roles we play is curating and recommending products that we stand behind, that we believe in. And there's a lot out there, and you can certainly be self-sufficient on the internet trying to get into this, but it requires a lot of effort. It requires a lot of digging. And if you're brand new to it with nobody to kind of bounce questions off of, it can be tough. So we are here to be questioned as much as you have questions. And we also recommend things that we believe in, that we fly. And so you're right, the initial investment of the controller and the game. On top of that, there is a fee that we charge for participating in our weekly gatherings online and the weekly races. It's $15 a month, and we bundle that in if you get started, so you can get kind of your first like fall or spring, coming up on the spring. You can get started for under $100, which is $95 when you tack on $30 for a whole spring worth of being involved with us online. So there are fees associated with us bringing pilots together, running races, also all of our training and teaching you how to get started on the stuff. Now, as we get into the drones, we have a drone kit that requires assembly, and we feel that that's an important part of this progression, because if you're going to get into the sport, you're invariably going to have to maintain and make some repairs, as you talked about before. And so we like starting kids out. It's not necessary, but we feel it's very important to start everybody out building their first drone, because if you put it together, you have a whole new understanding and that sticks with you. That understanding sticks with you because you know you built it from parts at the beginning. So we have a kit that comes with all the parts you need, plus batteries, plus charger, plus a lot of extra parts, all the spare parts that we know you're going to need. Spare motors, extra motors, because the motors do run out in the brushed Tiny Whoop that we start you with. The brushed micro. Now there are brushless motors but that's something that that kids evolve into. But you get all the extra parts you need, plus a really great carrying case, because there aren't great carrying cases in the world of Tiny Whoops yet. And so we created one. All of that in that kit, we call it the YDSC Racer Kit, is $170. But it's really good value when you look at all the things you get. And then for the goggles, we recommend the Fat Shark Recon V3 goggles. It's a box goggle. You can spend hundreds and hundreds of dollars on goggles, and the pilots that get into this, they certainly do. But these Recon V3s are just $100. So for $100 for the goggles, $170 for your first drone that you build. A membership here at Ready Tech Go to be able to come in here and build with us is $30 a month once you get up into the actual builds and you want to use our makerspace and you want to fly the real course. You need to be a member to do that. So there's our fees, and then the equipment charges are in that neighborhood of $100 plus $170 plus $40 for the radio in the beginning, and then with Velocidrone in that, that's about $335 is what you're looking at altogether. But just start under $100, like I said, and that's
that's
the key to do it.
That's what I was going to say. It's not too bad when you look at the fact that you can go in and you can get this controller and start working up and developing your skills on the sim. And so these costs can really be spread out over a period of time. So it's not like you have to walk in the door with $400 in your pocket or anything.
Yeah, might want to point out that's cheaper than I think the cheapest DJI drone out there. So
yes, absolutely. So
the 335 is all
Yeah.
told, it's less than that.
Yeah, and then plus you get the great experience and working with you folks and going out there and racing with friends. I think there's a lot of advantages there over to just going and buying the latest Mavic Mini or whatever is whatever's going to be hot this year for Christmas. It sounds like your kit might be the way to go to keep our students and kids, and especially in this time of COVID, of people working from home and doing school from home and finding ways to keep their kids halfway sane.
Yes.
I've got a 5 and a 7-year-old, and they spend too much time without something to occupy them, and it gets interesting real quick. So something like this could absolutely keep them busy while still teaching them some great skills, some hand-eye coordination, adding in the build part as well. So that's absolutely great. And I think that's about all the questions I have for you folks today. I'd really like to just take a second and say thank you very much for taking time out of your day to sit here and talk to us and talk to the viewers out there. We're really excited to see when we can open back up. So for those of you tuned in maybe a little bit late because of the governor's orders, they are closed down right now to outside personnel coming in. That being said, you can get a hold of them on their website. Multiple websites. They're Ready Tech Go and the Youth Drone Sports League.org.
YouthDroneSports.org.
YouthDroneSports.org. Okay. And get a hold of them. They can get you started on the simulator, get you started with remote control, and kind of just point you in the right direction. So Marty and Joel, thank you very much for joining us. And we should definitely get down there as soon as you open back up. I'm excited. I'll go myself, whether my work lets me or not. So
we look forward to having you here. We're big fans of what you're doing with NCAT, and so pleased and honored to be a part of what you're doing here this week with Safety Week. And drones can absolutely be fun. Just the concept of a video game that teaches you a real world skill, and that real world skill being flying, that is really the opportunity. And we've now made it available here, and this close order is currently only going until about December 18th. So we hope we'll be back by then, right before Christmas. And keep an eye on our social media channels and on our website at readytechgo.com and Ready Tech Go on Instagram. That's the best way, and Twitter, to find out what we're going to be doing.
All right, great. And well, for those out there, it sounds like as long as everything goes to plan, you might have an idea for a Christmas present for your kids. Hydra FPV right there at the Mall of America. Marty Wetherall, Joel Stewart, thank you very much for your time, and you folks have yourself a great day.
All right, you're very welcome. Thanks.
Thank you. Take care.